And I welcome everyone to this meeting of Cabinet on Thursday, the 14th of March from the Walton Suite, Winchester Guildhall. The time is 9:30 a.m. My name is Councillor Martin Todd, Chairperson of the Cabinet and Leader of the Council. This meeting is live streamed from the Council's YouTube channel, and the recording will also be available after the meeting. Subtitles can be switched on, and advice on how to turn these on is set out on our website. Can everyone ensure mobile phones are on silent, and can I remind members to use their microphones? In the unlikely event that it is necessary to evacuate the building, the fire alarm will sound. Please follow all the instructions given to you by our team. Can I welcome members of the public to the meeting this morning? We will invite you forward when it is time for you to make your contributions. Turning to the agenda, the first item on the agenda is apologies for absence. I have apologies from Councillor Becker. I don't see any other apologies. The second item is membership of cabinet bodies. There's no change in that area. The third is disclosures of interest. I wish to declare a personal non-pecuniary interest as a county councillor for any issues that involve county council potential involvement. Councillor Porter.
I also have the same personal non-pecuniary interest because I'm also a county councillor.
Thank you very much indeed. The next item is a request from councillors to speak. I notice that Councillor Wallace is here and wishes to speak. Well, I'll call Councillor Wallace forward on everything on item 10. Wishes to speak on item 10. Thank you very much indeed. I don't see any other councillors, although there are some councillors. Brooke and Godfrey have been listed as potential speakers, and if they turn up in time for their agenda item, I'll take their contributions. The next item is public participation, and Mr. Tate, would you come forward and make your comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to address the committee. I'm not quite as well prepared as I would have liked to have been. I've inflicted an injury on myself. So on the 23rd of May last year, I addressed Cabinet about an issue regarding Section 21 no-fault eviction notices. And I did make reference to a particular property which happens to be owned by the City Council, but is leased to a third party. And the third party had, on the previous Friday, the 12th of May, had their Section 21 order notice dismissed by the court. And I've just raised this issue with yourselves, and I was grateful for your helpful comments, Leader, regarding that you felt Section 21 no-fault eviction notices were not appropriate. So this matter has resurfaced, and so that what I'm trying to alert officers and members to is that the third party are in the process of again serving a no-fault Section 21 eviction notice. And in simple terms, that could make a resident homeless, and then the local authority would be obliged under the legislation to deal with that person presenting themselves as homeless. And I just feel it's incredibly unfortunate that this is a council-owned property. So really just looking for some more than reassurance from yourself and officers that there is a workable solution here. I would say I've been speaking to Mr. Hendy, the strategic director, and I do think he's got a full and comprehensive understanding of what the position is. So I'm hoping that this matter is one that can be resolved in a professional and appropriate way. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. And thank you for bringing this case forward. Obviously, we can't talk about any specific case in public. It wouldn't be appropriate to do so. We're in a slightly strange position because the 2019 Conservative manifesto promised to scrap no fault evictions. We're now in 2024 and it hasn't happened, and that would have made this entire issue gone away if that promise had been kept. The City Council is extremely serious and has a very good record in helping people avoid homelessness, and in everything we do, and that is ultimately the reason why we have major problems with Section 21 notices, where there is no plan to ensure that people maintain good housing as a result. I can't comment, on the individual case, but suffice to say that, as you rightly highlight, I know the council officers are very close to all the details of this. Our commitment to avoid homelessness is absolute and a very high priority for this council, and we will be proceeding in anything that we do and our relationship with any stakeholders involved on that basis.
I wasn't trying to make any political points here whatsoever, leader. So I'm not arguing the rights and wrongs of the Section 21. It was just trying to personalise it and just make sure that the principles behind your really supportive comments last year could be brought into practice. Thank you.
Absolutely, Mr. Tate. You can be assured that our commitment, our absolute commitment to tackling homelessness in this district in general and in individual cases remains strongly in place. I'm afraid we really can't talk about individual cases, and in this case the council is not serving any notice, so we can't talk about an individual case. But Mr. Hendy is very aware of the situation, and we are acting, as I said, with absolute seriousness in terms of our duty, but actually our ambition to prevent homelessness across the district. It's something this council has a very good record for and something we are absolutely committed to. Moving on to the next. So thank you all for your comments, and I realise obviously this is a matter of great interest to the people involved and something that we take as seriously as everybody else does. The next item on the agenda is the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 8th of February 2024. Cabinet, can I ask if you agree that these are a correct record of the meeting?
Brilliant.
Thank you very much. The next item after that is Cabinet and leader announcements. Who wishes to make an announcement? Lots of announcements. Why don't we start with Councillor Lerney?
Thank you, Leader. I'm pleased to say that we've had a very successful first tranche of our Go Greener Faster grant programme, awarding nearly £42,000 for projects, examples of which include replacing single glazed windows and doors with double glazed at the Otterbourne Pavilion, solar panels and battery storage at the Gretton Trust in Sutton Scotney, and work to reduce Trinity Winchester's carbon footprint. Following this success, we'll be reopening the Greener Faster grants programme later in the year and look forward to more community organisations coming forward for support in reducing their carbon footprints and becoming more environmentally friendly. If Councillor Becker were here, she would also be telling you about our other grant streams. By year end, we will have awarded 31 district small grants totalling over £25,000 and 8 district project grants totalling nearly £30,000. These have been awarded across the district, and examples include money to Newlands Community Group to support environmental work, including wildflower meadow planting, hedgerow maintenance and river clearing. Funding to Meon Valley Heart Start for first aid training across the district, and money to the Hygiene Bank in Winchester to support their work in providing for families struggling with the cost of living. It's pleasing as a council we're still giving grants to so many deserving organisations at a time when many other councils are stopping their grant programmes entirely. And I would encourage community groups and organisations to look at the variety of schemes we're offering to support their work.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lermy. Councillor Westwood.
Thank you, Leader. I'm pleased to announce that we've taken delivery of 76 new homes at the Winnell Flats development. These homes are very energy efficient, so not only will they be warm and comfortable, they'll also save people money on their bills. 32 one-bedroom and two-bedroom apartments and 3 two-bedroom houses will be available for purchase as shared ownership properties through Winchester City Council. And 41 one-bedroom apartments will be leased to the council's housing company Venta Living for them to offer high-quality market rent homes. In addition to providing 76 new homes, a landscaping programme will also be undertaken at the site, which will benefit all residents living in the Winnell Flats area, and this work is planned for completion at the end of May. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Deputy Leader, do you have? Oh, okay. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I'm very pleased to announce that the next grant allocation from the Rural England Prosperity Fund is now open, and we're looking forward to receiving applications from organisations across our district. So whether you are a rural business, a not-for-profit organisation or a community group, you can apply for grants ranging from £15,000 to £40,000. And we have a total of £350,000 to award. Applications will close on the 17th of May. Some of the projects that have already been supported include energy saving measures such as solar panels and ground source heat pumps, refurbishment of farm buildings for tourism or co-working space, and new roasting equipment for a coffee business. So if your organisation or business is interested, please go to our website for more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. And I have an announcement of my own, which is I'm very pleased to report that refurbishment works will be commencing in the public toilets in Market Lane next to St Maurice's Covert on Monday, the 18th of March. In order to proceed at pace, there will also be weekend working to move the project ahead. Works include replacement toilet seats and pan, new basins with new taps, new chrome pipework to the urinals, replacement sanitary ware throughout the accessible toilet, replacement floor vinyl, replacement bins and replacement panelling where it's been damaged, and environmental clean throughout. This follows from the adoption of Councillor Lermy's public toilet strategy in July 2023 and the confirmation of the budget for this work in the capital programme in February 2024. Following the completion of the works in Market Lane, the next toilets due for refurbishment look set to be the ones in Abbey Gardens, and we will shortly after, I think, then be following with the ones in Bishop's Waltham as part of a programme of refurbishing toilets right across the district. I don't think we have any more announcements. So the next item on the agenda is the approval of the cultural strategy. So, Councillor Thompson, would you like to introduce the paper?
Yes, thank you, Leader. And I'd like to welcome up to the table Emmeline Hickman and Andrew Costello, both from the Local Economy and Tourism team, who have done a lot of the work on this. Here we have the cultural strategy, and this has been a really major piece of work over the last 12 months and was one of the key actions arising from the Green Economic Development Strategy. And I'm really delighted to be asking for Cabinet approval of the strategy before you today. Before I go into my introduction, I just wanted to also add that the recommendations before you, we've got number 1 and number 2. I would like to add a further recommendation 3 to approve delegated authority to the Service Lead for Economy and Tourism to amend the foreword to the strategy and make minor amendments. Okay, so we will obviously hopefully agree that further recommendation at the end. Local authorities are the main funders of art and culture. So at a time when other councils across the country are reducing their spend, for instance, our colleagues up at the County Council, or being forced to cut all discretionary spending on arts and culture, I'm immensely proud that we as a council have put in time and resource to enable this strategy to be developed, and will continue to act as an enabler and facilitator to help to ensure arts and culture remains in our communities. We know that the cultural and creative sector provide a really significant contribution to our district's economy, but sometimes it's hard to quantify what art and culture bring to our communities. However, I believe it is hugely important and a hugely important factor and plays a crucial role in contributing to health and well-being. It tells us who we are, gives us a unique reference point, and differentiates us from other places. It gives us the opportunity to showcase those differences and provide distinctive places where people want to come to live, to work, and to visit. Culture enhances communities and makes them stronger. It can raise aspirations and develop local talent. It can stimulate economic growth and drive up footfall in our high streets. But most of all, it helps give our residents a sense of pride in where they live. And as a district, we have a lot to offer, but we need to build on what we have, and there is a real desire to do more, be more inclusive, and ensure everybody is able to come and enjoy and take part and find joy in whether it is attending one of the many festivals that happen across the district, going to see an exhibition, or going for a long walk in our spectacular countryside. The collective vision states, Winchester District's creative dynamism enriches lives and makes amazing things happen. This was co-written and agreed during the final stakeholder session. Developing the strategy has brought together a very diverse group of organisations who took part and shaped the 4 priorities of education and young people, placemaking, economy and creative industries, and events and festivals. The group met regularly during the year, and over that time, deeper relationships across those organisations have been formed. And we also met as smaller groups, looking specifically at each priority and considered the changes and actions we would like to see. Also, and really importantly, we have been supported by Arts Council England, who have attended our stakeholder group meetings. In addition, our resident survey is still open and has currently attracted 450 comments so far, and will remain open indefinitely as we form our action plan. Of course, we also consulted with members and held such an interesting and interactive members briefing, really raising the bar considerably on what we usually come to expect as a members briefing. As a group, we have come a long way. We now have a better understanding of each other and the challenges faced, and also what can be achieved by working collaboratively. We all recognise that many organisations are working at full capacity, and it is acknowledged that by partnership working, we can achieve so much more. But we also want to be ambitious, and within the groups, there was much discussion about that ambition and the need for resilience. At the start, it was important for us as a council to establish that although we would be the author of this strategy and ourselves a stakeholder, enabling and supporting the partnership, it was for members of the group to work collaboratively to deliver the change we all want to see. And I'm really delighted to announce that we are in discussions with the University of Winchester to take this forward. So to sum up, this strategy has the full support of the stakeholder group as well as Arts Council England and has been co-designed. It will very much be a working document and of course subject to change should opportunities arise. But before I close, none of this could have happened without the dedication and hard work of our Culture and Creative Sector Development Officer, Emmeline Hickman, who in particular has put in a huge amount of work on this and has led the project. I'd also like to thank the local economy and tourism team, who obviously had a hand in it too. But Emmeline herself has brought together so many diverse organisations and individuals across our district, which has been absolutely fantastic. And all of those organisations and the individuals I know have felt very much part of this whole process and the strategy that I'm asking you to agree today. So you've got 3 recommendations now, and I thoroughly support them, and I hope that Cabinet will endorse them too today. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Brooke, I believe you want to make a comment or a deputation.
Thank you, Chair, much appreciated. I'm really pleased to see this come forward following on from the introduction of it by our group in 2014, and I'm pleased to see that it's coming forward for a refresh. It feels like a really long time since we started conversations on that. I didn't realise it was only 12 months. To me, it felt like more like 2 years. So, but looking through the plan, it seems quite logical, although I'm disappointed that year 1 is research when we've just spent a long time researching, because I know that some of the research happened in advance of that. As the purpose of this is to encourage people to engage with cultural activities, I was surprised not to have seen a list of all of the activities that have been included and plotted on the maps as icons, because it would be a further opportunity for people to engage and say, I didn't realise that was near me, should they have read the report. So I was really surprised that there wasn't actually a list in there as well as the plotting on there. For example, I'm unable to see if it's included the museum at Southwark Park or Overlord Festival that happens every year in Denmead. I'm unclear as to whether they're included or not. And so as a resident or a councillor, I wouldn't know to tell you that if I didn't know whether it was there or not. So seeing that list would be really helpful. And so could we consider that for future? Understandably, given the rich heritage already celebrated in the city, most of the cultural partners are city based and city focused. And I've noted that you'll continue to seek new partners. So I'd like to ask if there's a possibility of partnership working with Wickham Historical Society, for example, and community groups who are already celebrating the culture and history of their specific areas, because there are fabulous local community groups who could certainly partner on this and already do a great job of volunteering. So thank you for your time this morning, much appreciated.
Councillor
Yes.
Thompson, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Councillor Brooke. Yes, one of the key things that came out of the stakeholder specific group meetings was the need for slightly more in-depth research into that particular topic. And we are really aware that people want to see action as well. So that will be part of it. But we, as I say, we are in discussions with the University of Winchester, who have put their hands up and said they are willing to sort of get all the groups together and start work on some kind of creative hub, which is really fantastic. So I know that they will be contacting everybody and, you know, trying to work that out. And I'm sure the officers will be able to say a bit more about that. I'm sure we do know about Southwark Park, and there was a list and there was an interactive map that was sent out. Certainly all members got it, and at the members briefing, I know that Emily made a specific point of saying, do let us know of any organisations or venue space that, you know, don't appear to show on this map. I guess, you know, you must have tapped into that, I would have thought. I hope you did. We will be promoting them. That is one of the things that we want this creative network and hub to actually do, to join everybody together and really actively promote events throughout the district, and you know, making sure that everybody is included in that and can tap into it. I don't know whether Emmeline or Mr. Costello might like to say any further.
Yeah, just to add to Councillor Thompson's comments and to reassure Councillor Brooke that the stakeholder group and us as a cultural and tourism team are very, very aware of the length and breadth and diversity and richness of the overall cultural offer that the whole district has, and certainly we are very keen to ensure that all elements of the cultural offer is engaged and is promoted, and in the action plan and in our service plans for this year, Emmeline has developed and will be launching a whole series of support and guidance to enable and motivate communities to come together to create their own cultural offerings as well, but also demonstrate how collaborative and partnership working can come together to support some of those smaller events. And just to remind the Cabinet that, of course, all events, whatever size, can be promoted on the Council's website, and then we select a section of those to be promoted via Visit Winchester website as well, that's particularly visitor focused, and in addition to that we have a whole series of plans around raising the awareness of our cultural offer through our tourism and marketing campaigns in the coming and future years.
Thank you very much indeed. Cabinet, do you have any questions of your own as far as this paper is concerned? I think we've all had it's been a very participatory process, and we've had a good opportunity to participate as individual members. I would endorse Councillor Brooks' comments about the importance of highlighting the Wickham History Society, not least because their last meeting was talking about some of my ancestors. But anyway, so do people have any debate that they wish to add? Councillor Porter.
Thank you. I think it's a really good paper. I think it has really moved us on from everybody expecting the City Council to do everything to taking responsibility for themselves. So as I'm sure most councillors will have been involved in trying to set up events and taking part in events. It is about everybody having the confidence to take that role themselves, as well as sharing in other people's activities. And so I really welcome the principles of this paper, because it allows us all to seek help if we need it, to help promote those events if we want to, but also to know that there are a number of other people there that are available to help that along the way. So I find that really encouraging, that it's not just sitting here waiting for the council to do the job, but actually getting the whole community to think of culture as belonging to them.
Thank you very much. Any other debate? Councillor Thompson, any last words?
Not many, I don't think, because I did give quite a fulsome opening remarks, but I think it's a fantastic paper. I think that the fact that the University of Winchester have actually put their hand up and said they are willing to take on this role of creating this sort of creative and cultural hub is absolutely fantastic. And so I would like to thank the University of Winchester for that, and look forward to hearing more about that when we've concluded our negotiations with them. So yeah, I think it's all good.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Thompson. Yes, I agree. I mean, the culture is such an important part of our city and our district. It's part of makes the place special. It's relatively intangible versus the things we see around us, but it has such an impact. And I was very encouraged. When I looked at this paper, I just saw the power of partnership and engagement and listening and collaboration really shining through, tapping into the creative energies and the enthusiasms and ambitions of organisations right across the district. And I've heard so many good things directly and indirectly about the work that Ms. Hickman has done on this project, and would like to pay particular tribute to you and the support we've had from your management and the rest of your colleagues. But you have made a really big difference here, and it is greatly appreciated. So the recommendations in front of us are to approve the co-designed Winchester Cultural Strategy 2024 to 2030, to be led and delivered by the partners operating within the sector, one of which is us, the council. To agree the actions and the council's current resource commitments made within it, as set out in Appendix 1, and the new recommendation 3 that Councillor Thompson highlighted earlier, which delegates authority to adjust the forward and make other minor amendments. Cabinet, are you agreed to those recommendations?
Agreed.
Thank you very much indeed. The next item on the agenda, another thing that is a huge contributor to making our district and our city very special, relates to trees. And indeed, the projects that we have done looking at what characterises our city and our district very often comes back to greenery and trees. Councillor Lerney, would you like to introduce this paper?
Thank you. It's a relatively short paper, so I will keep my introduction short as well. The council tree strategy places emphasis on this council's commitment to managing our own tree stock in a sustainable and appropriate manner, maintaining the existing canopy cover across the district, keeping our trees in a healthy and safe state, all nearly 30,000 of them, is important to carbon reduction, biodiversity and the amenity we provide for our residents. We anticipate the value of the works over the 4 years of this framework agreement to be around £900,000. Through renewing the procurement of tree work through a framework agreement rather than the award of a single contract, we can give work to a range of firms, providing the opportunity for small local firms to bid for our work, giving flexibility at key times of the year while retaining certainty around the costs for any particular piece of work. The recommendation in front of us today is to procure, award and enter into a contract to secure the services of tree contractors by means of a framework agreement, and I have Rick Smith and Ivan Girdler here to take any questions members might have.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Lerney. And I believe Councillor Godfrey wishes to make a few comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. Very briefly, as you've rightly said in the introduction, one of the outstanding features of Winchester and 240 square miles of beautiful Hampshire countryside are the trees. We have between 6 and 12 million trees in our district, and we need to acknowledge the importance of these to our communities and to the environment. We also, in my ward, have a centre of excellence of training arboriculturalists and tree management professionals at Sparsholt College. I would urge the Cabinet to take advantage of the expertise we have, not only within the City Council, but also within the district, and to make sure that the framework includes the local contractors wherever possible, and that we use that expertise we have within the district to its utmost. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much indeed, Councillor Godfrey. Councillor Lerney.
Thank you. I certainly support Councillor Godfrey's work, and the use of local expertise is one of the reasons for using a framework agreement rather than looking for a single contractor, even though the amount of work we're talking about is a significant sum over the 4 years. I don't know if officers would like to comment any further about the use of local contractors.
Yes, the local contractors are given the opportunity to bid. It goes out to everybody, so everything's kept fair, as we have to, as we're regulated to do so. So, that all the bids that come back are evaluated, assessed, to make sure that it is to the regulations.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Girdler. Cabinet, does anybody else have any questions? Councillor Westwood.
Thank you, Leader. Just one question. Once we award the framework agreement, there'll be a number of suppliers on there. How would we go about choosing a supplier for a particular piece of work?
There's a cascading effect in the process of doing it. So it's not just about price, but the availability, the machinery, the suitability of the contractors, because obviously there's at the moment we have smaller contractors who can do the smaller works very easily. We have bigger contractors like removing Ash Dieback road closure. So it depends, on the job, their availability, because obviously they've got other councils and clients to look after. So and obviously we would if we're going out of the sort of framework, we would do a mini tender inside the framework. So then that would give the best value for price. We would use one of them through a mini process, because obviously things like street lighting and that sort of stuff, we'd need traffic management or specialised bit of equipment. So it depends on the job, depends on how we we know our contractors, what they're capable of, and obviously their availability to do the work.
Councillor Porter.
Thank you. This is an obvious question to us, but perhaps not to the public. There are many trees, as Councillor Godfrey just said. There are many trees in the district, and only some of them are owned by us. We now have street trees that have been recently planted by Hampshire County Council in our verges. How will the public know if it's a city council tree or a county council tree, or in fact belongs to somebody completely different?
The public won't know. That they have no idea that, if they ring us up, we're about to tell them, because we know, but there's no, we know, what highways own, we know we own, we're not private, but there, the only way they will find out is to ring us and ask us, or look on the council's website, which shows you, the council's ownership. There is also a layer somewhere that shows what council trees we surveyed. There's actually on the public old data, an old database that shows the trees there from the previous tree survey programme.
So for the general public, we've got a problem with the tree, or the city council.
That's the best thing to call us, and one of us will be able to.
That doesn't sound a very practical way of doing it. We need to find another alternative, because we don't really want you out looking at trees, not actually.
Well, they'd also have there's also the on the website there is a inquiry form they can fill in and send in.
That's lovely.
That's on there as well, which we've created. So it gives us, then we can just fill it and send it back, or ring them or email them.
Okay, thank you. So there's an online form.
Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Is there any debate on this? Councillor Cutler.
Well, I'd just like to support the paper, because I think the framework process has worked well in the last 4 years, and precise is the mechanism by which local contractors can be involved. If we went for a single contractor, it would have to be one of the, a very large scale contractor to be able to actually provide all the services. Whereas within this framework, as has been pointed out, it's possible for smaller businesses to do sort of specialised stuff, but also have the ability to bring in the machinery required for the major jobs. I mean, it's crucially important that we have a good framework for it because of the significant problems with disease in trees at the moment, and I can't see that it's going to get any better. So I think it's a really important part of the of our contract work.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Lerney, any final thoughts?
Thank you. I have no further thoughts to add on the paper, but I think it would be important that we don't miss this opportunity with Ivan in the meeting to say thank you very much for all of his work over many years at the council. I think members have always found you very easy to deal with, even if occasionally you have TPO trees. We'd rather you hadn't. But I think we really will miss you, and we're very sorry to see you go.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Lerney. I'd agree with you. It's a feature of travelling around this district or this city that you'll suddenly turn a corner or go down a road and suddenly there'll be a majestic tree that, aside from all the wildlife and other benefits that it brings to the area, defines an area and gives a sense of place and lets you know where you are. And I don't know if Mr. Girdler is happy to be compared to a tree, but in terms of our tree management, he has a similar role, a similar stature in terms of defining the organisation. He is like a great tree within the department that tells us who we are and what we're about and what matters to us as a council. We are so grateful for all your work, putting in place the tree strategy, something Councillor Godfrey said in passing, and I'm sure I would be reflecting his views as well, as he said, Sparsholt is a centre of excellence and so is the City Council. And when he was saying that, I think he meant you. So thank you so much indeed for all the work you've done for us. All good wishes for a very happy and long retirement. And I'm sure trees will continue to play a very important part of them. But anyway, thank you very much indeed.
Keep an eye on them still.
Good. Very pleased to hear it. And thank you very, very, very much indeed.
Thank you.
We better agree the recommendations as well, haven't we, Cabinet? We have a recommendation to authorise the Strategic Director for Place to procure, award and enter into a contract to secure the services of tree contractors for the city via a framework agreement, obviously in line with public procurement regulations, the Council's constitution. Are you agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you very much indeed. The next paper is the annual review of the risk management policy. Deputy Leader, would you care to introduce the paper?
Thank you, Leader. The annual review of the risk management policy, this report presents the updated risk management policy for 24-25, which sets out the Council's approach to risk management and the Council's risk appetite and details the arrangements for managing risk. The annual review has resulted in no material or major changes to the policy or to the risk appetite or the process of managing risk. The minor changes made are summarised in paragraph 11.7 of the report. The report was scrutinised by the Audit and Governance Committee, and there were a couple of comments on that. And one of them was raising the area of risk when acquiring properties rather than building them ourselves, given the record of some of the house builders of not achieving very high standards, and that is certainly something that I think we need to consider as a as a risk, and look into the management of that quality assurance for that housing. There was a comment just purely about a reference where it says city, but it should say district in risk CR 011, and the Audit and Governance Committee also mentioned the fact we must continue to consider opportunities as well as risks, but that of course is part of the process of identifying risks in all our policy papers. There was, Cabinet considered the risk appetite, and our view was very much that circumstances are still such that we wouldn't wish to increase our appetite for risk within the council, and so that has not changed. So that's a brief summary of a largely unchanged report.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Godfrey, I believe you wish to say a few words.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. The discussion at the Audit and Governance Committee, as Councillor Cutler reported, the need for risk management to move more centrally to the decision-making processes of any organisation is been something which we've all supported, and I'm pleased to say that the moderately revised risk strategy reflects comments we made last year and at the committee, and seems to be moving in a good direction where it is becoming embedded in day-to-day activities. It is important that we get risk management and risk policy correct, and the risk appetite was reviewed at the Audit Committee, and I certainly supported that level. It seems to be sensible, and that is being reflected in the extract from the Corporate Risk Register, where focus is on the bringing down the level of risk to those acceptable levels. We do need to think about how this is reflected in the major projects. One of the concerns last year, which was the source of some of the changes made in this year's update, was making sure that project managers took into account the risk appetite before decisions were made, and not after. We have not been able to see the updated risk registers for each project. I think it would be sensible to try to be more open, and not just the key milestones, but to make sure we can see the reviews of those risks that have been carried out. And I think I would urge the Cabinet to consider to maintain the training for councillors, including yourselves, and for officers, to make sure that the real purpose of risk management and the application of this risk policy is understood and followed. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Godfrey. Deputy Leader.
Thank you, Leader. I find myself agreeing with Councillor Godfrey. We've been generally consistent in our collective views on risk management. It's all very well to have the strategy and the policies, but it's so important to embed it in the organisation. In terms of the looking at the major project risk registers, that's not incorporated in this report, and I think that's really for Audit and Governance to. I mean, they've made the request to be able to review that, and I think that's something that can certainly be considered as part of the Audit and Governance programme. One point I didn't raise in the introduction, of course, is that our risk management processes were audited by the internal audit team last year and received substantial assurance, which is the highest level that we can have. So we can recognise that we actually have a very good system in place, but obviously we're never complacent and can always improve. So I would certainly back the idea of making sure that we continue to try to embed it in the culture of the council by regular training in particular.
Thank you very much indeed. Cabinet, are there any questions?
Chair, it's apologies, I missed Councillor Wallace off your list, but he has registered to speak as well. Yeah.
Councillor Wallace, please come forward and make your.
Chair. My comments relate to the corporate risk register. Firstly, where is the risk associated with the nature emergency? In response to the shocking long-term decline in UK wildlife, the council declared a nature emergency in September. The nature crisis and the climate emergency are intrinsically linked. The impacts of the climate crisis drive nature's decline, while restoring nature can help to tackle the climate crisis. Therefore, the full council recognise that both emergencies need to be considered in council plans. Specifically, the council declaration of a nature emergency stated that the council resolves to consider the impact of nature's recovery in all strategic plans, policy areas and decision-making processes. It's therefore puzzling that our processes and several committees have overlooked this emergency in the 2024-25 Risk Management Policy Review. The absence raises all sorts of issues about the Constitution, efficacy and meaningfulness of unanimously agreed full council motions, especially emergency ones. Moreover, it risks giving an impression that the council is simply paying lip service to the nature emergency. The issue of pulling through motions into council business does not appear to be limited to the risk management plan. Other motions that have been passed by full council don't always appear to flow down through the council. For example, the Carbon Neutrality Action Plan is occasionally mentioned as an informative in listed planning applications, but never the motion resolutions for protecting our waterways or the nature emergency. This disconnect needs urgent attention to ensure that all motions are integrated into the council's ways of working. Secondly, on the climate emergency, would it not be more correct to state that the council is taking a cautious approach to action rather than the open approach as stated? Progress towards both the council and district carbon emission targets are off track. In the 3 years since the council declared a climate emergency, council emissions reduced by less than 10%. And the goal of the council achieving carbon neutrality in 2024 has already been missed. Similarly, the goal of reaching carbon neutrality across the district by 2030 is fast becoming a pipe dream. The risk management policy states that in order to reflect the urgency of the climate crisis, the council will consider options with elevated levels of risk if they deliver required outcomes faster. However, despite falling behind the council's self-declared targets, the administration is passing up opportunities for going greener faster. Lack of funding is often cited as a key reason for not going faster, but even when an opportunity for generating funding was put before the administration, it was rejected. The world is getting hotter every day. Over the last 12 months, the world has breached the 1.5 degrees limit and new records are being set almost every month. Winchester cannot reverse the climate emergency on our own, but this shouldn't be an excuse for the current lacklustre pace of action. I was brought up with the values that if you made a commitment to someone, you delivered on that commitment. This council has made commitments about action on the climate and nature emergencies. It's time for the council to start delivering on those commitments. A good way to start would be for the councils to start managing the risk in the way that it is committed to in this report. Thank you.
Councillor Cutler.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace. I find myself disagreeing with you in terms of the, and we specifically have a slightly higher level of risk within the climate emergency section of our council plan compared to the overall risk. And once again, I mean, you raised the comment about us not taking the opportunity for for other forms of finance. I think we made very clear in the debate that we would consider community municipal investments where they were appropriate. Funding is not what is holding us back in any shape or form with green investments. It's actually the business case for doing them becomes the problem. And if you expect us to change our risk appetite to the level of recklessness where we just spend money with no business case, well, I'm afraid we cannot agree to that. We do take both the nature emergency and the climate emergency seriously.
Thank you very much indeed. Cabinet, are there any other questions that people would like to raise? Any debate? Any final words?
I have very little to add. I do think there is, we will continue to review where it's appropriate in terms of our risk policies, but as risks arise. But as I pointed out earlier, we have had substantial assurance from internal audit on our risk management processes. We are very keen to continue to embed it in the system, and we will continue that process.
Thank you very much indeed. Cabinet, we have the risk management policy in front of us. For all the reasons that we've highlighted, that there isn't a requirement to change it. I think the approach that we've taken in terms of the carbon level of appetite risk is absolutely the right one. It is an area where we're prepared to take a higher risk in order to move ahead more quickly. The figures that were referred to by Councillor Wallis are out of date. Since then, a large number of initiatives have been delivered or on track to be delivered that will significantly further cut our carbon footprint. Indeed, if you look at the scope 1 and 2 carbon picture, which is the only real basis for being able to compare different local authorities, there already by 22-23 we're down 66%. And that's before the further cuts that we have in the pipeline as a result of initiatives such as, for example, moving to HVO fuel for our waste vehicles and park and ride buses. So the recommendations in front of us are that we approve the risk management policy for 24-25, the risk appetite statement and the current corporate risk register. Cabinet, are you agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much indeed. The next item is the Q3 Finance and Performance Monitoring Report. Deputy Leader, would you like to introduce the report?
Thank you, Leader. The Q3 Finance and Performance Report is in the format that we come to expect, and it outlines Appendix 1 provides a summary of the Council's progress against the Council plan in the period October 23, 1st of October 23 to the 31st of December 23. Appendix 2 provides a financial update of both the General Fund and Housing. Appendix 3, the refreshed set of key performance indicators, and Appendix 4, a highlight report. So it's in the form that we always take this, well, have traditionally taken this report. The report was considered by the scrutiny committee, and there were a number of questions raised, and I'd like to deal with some of them now. The first being the issues regarding the Citizens Advice Bureau at Bishop's Waltham and the impact on service. The Citizens Advice have moved their office from Bishop's Waltham to Wickham to a far more accessible office, and are also providing a drop-in service at Bishop's Waltham Library. So in fact, we have an enhanced service in the southern parishes. So I think Councillor Lee raised concerns about that at scrutiny. We talked at scrutiny about the commitments to have a look at the KPI on fly tipping. We had agreed at previous meetings that we would start looking at clear up rates. What we are finding, and the most recent figures show that compared to 21-22, the 22-23 figures showed a 40% reduction in the number of fly tipping incidents in the district, which was one of the highest reductions in the country, where our neighbours were still increasing by over 30%. So our strategy on prosecution seems to be working well, and the current figures to the end of Q3, which we didn't have available for the paper, suggest 606 incidents, I think, in which would pro rata there would only be 800 or so this year, which would be a further 20% reduction. Obviously, we want to continue that approach, but the success of reducing the number of tips means that actually the clear up rate becomes our next focus of attention, and we're quite happy to move towards that as a KPI on fly tipping. Scrutiny also asked that we consider a review of KPIs, and that is something that we will be looking at in the new municipal year. There were a series of questions that actually will be resolved through the sort of outside of the, there were more on additional information and outside of that sort of quarterly review. I think most of those questions have been answered or will be answered through normal processes. The final one that I will respond to on this was the use of Meadowside Leisure Centre, which showed being behind the curve, but in fact and I've discussed this with officers, it appears that the use through the year is not even, and there is far more use in the second 2 quarters. And so it probably needs reprofiling anyway, but the most recent figures, which is the year-to-date figures to the end of February, mean that we're actually well on track to achieve the target number of visitors. The year-to-date footfall is 65,000, over 65,000, and only needs 5,000 visits in March to achieve that level. So possibly the indicator on the report was needs looking at and perhaps reprofiling. So I hope we've dealt with many of the concerns at scrutiny committee, and I commend this report to Cabinet.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Brooke, you wish to bring the views of the scrutiny committee.
Thank you again, Chair, for allowing me to speak on this one. So firstly, I'm speaking on behalf of Councillor Horrell for the first part, just to express she was extremely disappointed that there wasn't a separate performance panel meeting as there had been previously, and she would also like to say that at the separate performance panel meetings that there is a much more detailed conversation, and officers are much more responsive, because you can have the sort of off the cuff conversations, the more detailed conversations, and she felt that there was some more political answering and responses that you don't tend to find at the smaller performance panel meeting. So I just wanted to highlight that. And from my perspective, I just wanted to pull out from the scrutiny minutes the fact that I have requested that we have training for the scrutiny team on scrutinising the performance panel and scrutinising the document. So I think it will level the playing field with regard to expectations of what we expect from the performance panel meetings, what we expect to scrutinise, and that it may enable us to more specifically tailor that scrutiny to perhaps, if there's something of particular concern, we can pull out some projects from that need to be taken forwards or some such, depending on the outcome of that training. So I just wanted to draw your attention to that. Thank you again for allowing me to speak.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Cutler.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, Councillor Brooke, I neglected to mention the scrutiny training, which I think is a really good move in terms of approaching how we deal with this report. I am disappointed at the concern about the performance panel. When the performance panel was first set up, it was never envisaged that it would require a huge officer team to attend at those meetings, and I understand that the reason that it was cancelled was because there weren't every officer requested available. I think it is impractical to expect a huge officer team to attend performance panel, and it's something that we do need to look at and work together with scrutiny as to what the most effective use of resources it is, because it's too much to expect large attendance at performance panel meetings of officers.
Thank you very much indeed. Cabinet, do you have any questions on the report? I realise it's one that we've seen a few times already, had a chance to input on. Any debate? Councillor Porter.
Thank you. I wasn't unfortunately able to get to the scrutiny, but I do have read the minutes and the notes completely. And there's one point about KPIs for planning service. We've agreed not to add to the department's burden of work using the government metrics to report generally, but you will know already, or may know already, that our planning department at the end of third, beginning of fourth quarter was successful in that application for funding to improve the performance even further, and they're doing that with pride at the moment. And this allows I think it allows the department to go forward faster, but also shows their willingness to do that. And to make really good progress. And just personally, I have taken a great deal of interest in driving the speed of outcomes of planning, and I do see the monthly responses, but they can't be considered as a typical response for that month, because we find that applications are seasonal, so they come all of a sudden before holidays, all of a sudden before Christmas. So smoothing that out over the 3 months is more reasonable, and I think is more indicative. But just to say that we have a great deal of emphasis on speeding up planning applications wherever we can.
Thank you very much indeed. Any other comments or debate? Any last words, Councillor Cup?
I think, as you said, it's been well discussed in the paper, particularly in scrutiny, and I have no further comments.
Thank you very much indeed. Yes, well, first of all, a huge thank you to the officers for pulling together this large and substantial report, and also for delivering all the activities that are outlined within it. It's a very impressive set of achievements and performance, and we're very grateful for all the work that went behind it. I take note of Councillor Brooks' comments about the performance panel. I would stress a couple of things that maybe provide a way forward on this. Firstly, the performance panel was established by the Scrutiny Committee, not by Cabinet, and it is for the Scrutiny Committee to decide its future. And secondly, there are agreed terms of reference, which include the officer support that will be provided to it. And if scrutiny wishes to change the resource and process that sits with the performance panel, then that is something where obviously a review, a discussion of resource and the implication of level support needed to provide that, and how that relates to possible support in other areas of the committee's work is a useful conversation to have. And I think the scrutiny chair's idea, Councillor Brooks' idea of bringing in the Centre for Governance and Scrutiny is an excellent one. We should always be trying to improve and find better ways to do things, and that includes how we can do a better job of managing our performance and scrutinising that performance. And I personally would welcome that input as well. So the paper in front of us asks us to, where are we? Asks us to note the progress achieved during Q3 of 2023-24 and endorse the contents of the report. Cabinet, I assume we're all happy to do so.
Agreed.
Thank you very much indeed. The last item on the agenda is to note the future items for consideration by Cabinet as shown on